This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski. On today's show, a weird situation with an AEW talent. We're going to get into some of the minutia and talk about that, and did maybe Warner Brothers overstep some bounds? Also, the possibility of AJ Styles retiring, and we got to take a look at what's going on with Dynamite and AEW and their main title picture. Their world championship picture has multiple contenders. Going to take a look at all of that, break it all down, help me sort it all out, get into all of it. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Great week of professional wrestling. Like you said, so much going on. We're on the road to the Royal Rumble. Some things are taking shape, and it's always good when WWE hits Montreal because then we get to see finally the fans cheer for Sami Zayn in a loud manner. So it's a good stop, and I think that tonight at Saturday night's main event, I think it's going to be interesting. And continuing what we have said here on the podcast, Trick Williams, I think, is on his way to superstardom. I just hoped he's booked properly. The fans are into it, and now he's got to just match whatever good creative he gets from WWE, and he's got to have good in-ring performances. He's got the first level of being great. Now the opportunity presents itself to have some great memories in the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, when he's in the ring with those other guys who are vets, it's not like he's overlooked. It's not like he looks small. It's not like he shies away from that spotlight. So he does have a presence in the ring. He does command that spotlight. And you're right. If he's booked well and he can wrestle well, things should work out really, really well for Trick Williams. But I think the big news coming out of this week in wrestling was the rumors and the possibility of AJ Styles retiring at this year's Royal Rumble. So let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back. There were a few months ago was when all this stuff with John Cena was going on in his retirement. There were some conversations and there was some discussion about AJ Styles retiring this year. The thought was that it'd be much later in the year, wouldn't be coming up at the Royal Rumble, which is a couple weeks away here, or was it a week away at this point? It wasn't supposed to be this early, but if you look at when AJ Styles contracts, what they revolve around the Royal Rumble. If you remember, he came over from New Japan about 10 years ago, and he was one of the surprises at the Royal Rumble. So it would make sense that with his re-ups and all of his extensions, his contract would expire at the Royal Rumble. Now he's gonna get into a match with Gunther where he's put his career on the line. I don't know what to believe here. I don't know what the case is. I don't want to see him retire at the Royal Rumble. I don't want to see him retire in this manner because I don't feel like we've gotten a long enough period to digest him possibly retiring. Like all of a sudden, it feels like they're slapping us in the face. They're saying, hey, AJ Styles is going to basically retire at the Royal Rumble. So I want him to win this match at the Royal Rumble. I don't know what that does for Gunther and the Gunther storyline, but I don't want to see AJ Styles go out at the Royal Rumble. What are your thoughts on AJ Styles possibly retiring at the Royal Rumble this year?
Yeah, look, it would be weird. I think that the fans want more. So I think to throw this nugget out there, it kind of lends to the belief that maybe there's going to be some chicanery. And I think the easiest way to do it is, all right, you have AJ Styles get in there, boom. You have Gunther doing his thing, about to win the match, and then Brock Lesnar comes out and costs Gunther. You need to set up WrestleMania with the Rumble, and somebody has to cost Gunther this match at a point where he's so mad, so infuriated that now you have the AJ Styles wins, he feels good, and the opportunity presents itself to be able to go out there. And if you want to have fun with it, if you want to really kind of have some fun, because AJ Styles did say on SmackDown, he said John Cena, dude, it would be kind of cool if John Cena's music hits, and while technically not in the ring, a nice little belt shot or a nice little punch to Gunther, and you can kind of bring it full circle. But the thing is that you just don't want to cool off Gunther being a heel. So I just don't want to see AJ Styles retire. Nobody does. But I feel like whatever's got to be done's got to be able to set up WrestleMania, even if it's just Gunther and AJ Styles again. Even if you let AJ Styles beating Gunther clean would be kind of sweet and surprising. But at the same token, I'm starting to sense that the internet world and the WWE fans are not really happy with, like, Gunther kind of feels like he's been cooled down after an enormous win against John Cena, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for sure.
Yeah, and look, I like the way that you've booked that, and I like the way you set that up, right? Like, that is a great way to get us to Gunther and Brock Lesnar, if the plan is for Brock Lesnar to be retired at WrestleMania. And it doesn't hamper AJ Styles. AJ Styles can continue to go on. And look, we know it's coming. I just feel like this felt really fast. I felt like this booking for this, you didn't let it breathe. And this is one of those things where you need to let it breathe a little bit. And they didn't do it. And look, AJ Styles has said he doesn't want to do a tour like John Cena did. He doesn't want to have all that pomp and circumstance. He just kind of wants to go in and go out. So, like, I could see it happening. And that's why I said I'm really torn. But I don't want it to be right now. I think the thing that's really, really cool is we do get to see AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura at Saturday night's main event. That is one of those matches that you pay to see. That's a match that is about 11 years old in the making to get that rematch. They had that match at I believe it was Wrestle Kingdom over in New Japan about 11 years ago. It's absolutely fantastic. Those guys have history. Those guys are great. They both came over to WWE at the same time. One happened to go to the main roster. One happened to go to NXT. Nakamura tore it up in NXT, got moved to the main roster. And I don't think it's ever really been a great fit, him on the main roster. I just don't know if they know what to do with him or how to package him. I feel like when he was cutting his promo on Friday, his back and forth with AJ Styles in English was absolutely fantastic. I think he seems more cunning when he cuts his promos in Japanese, and I don't mind the subtitles. I think those things are fantastic. I feel like with the Japanese wrestlers, just let them speak Japanese. If you can throw subtitles up, throw subtitles up. If it's a case like with Kiana James, where she'll kind of do the translation, fine, whatever. But let them speak in their native tongue. I think it comes off a little bit better. I think it works better. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with AJ Styles. I hope he doesn't retire at the Rumble. However, I could see it happen.
But also, because remember, they did get into it. I think at WrestleMania, they did have the match, but it just didn't live up to the great classic matches that they've had. So
That's true.
I think that you got to put out a banger because everyone lived up to that match. It was okay, but it was in the middle of AJ Styles' early run with WWE, and it was expected, highly thought of, but it's just not memorable.
You know, this is the other thing too, right? So this being on Peacock, they don't have a hard out. So it's on the streaming app. Word is they don't have a hard out. They can kind of go and do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it. So you could give this match if you really wanted to. You could give it 20 minutes. You could give it 45 minutes. If you wanted to, you could give them an hour. And they could tear the house down for an hour. They won't do that, but they could do that. So something else that's a little bit interesting. I want to get your take on this. And look, in our group chat, Kenny was kind of visceral about this. We've got a Natalya heel turn. She comes out to for the Becky Lynch match where she's defending her Intercontinental Championship, and she interferes in it. And you knew this was coming. You could tell this was coming. I watched all this play out, and to me, it felt like a wet fart. Like, I don't know what to do with Natalya. Like, I want to like Natalya. I think Natalya's got a good look. I just don't really get into Natalya's facial expressions, and I don't know how to get into her character because I feel like they've kind of booked her into oblivion in the past, and it makes it really, really tough for me to get invested in her character. What are your thoughts on Natalya in her heel turn? Does it do anything for you?
Listen, I think and sometimes when you have something that's a change in a character, you got to strike while the iron is hot. It's too little too late. Like, she's done half a dozen appearances somewhere else. So the other promotions got the juice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so
Nope, you're right.
now what you're saying and what kind of is lending to kind of how people are feeling is like, well, we don't trust WWE to take this character to the spot where it needs to. And it's predictable. It's like, oh, you see, all of a sudden, we'd never seen Natalya. All of a sudden, Natalya's hanging out with Maxine Dupree again. And you're like, yes, we know this is going to be a turn. You just laid it out there. Everybody knows. And it's a good way to establish it, but you could have even did it in a different way. I mean, you just got to stop being so cookie cutter and right to the point. And here's where I think WWE is struggling is Natalya did all the work to establish this character. She's starting to promote it everywhere else. And all of a sudden, now WWE wants to use it. Well, what are they going to do with it? Like, what's the point of it? Is it to the point where she's going to be a world title contender? There's not going to be yet. They needed to listen. Sometimes WWE forgets their tried and true formula. You didn't have to debut it with a heel turn. All you had to do was Natalya's mad. You haven't been using me. A simple promo backstage with Byron Sexton, and she's just like, I'm tired of being this way. I'm tired of being neglected. And you start to highlight all the stuff she did in some vignettes, and then I think she would have got a pop if you would have did it, hey, in Montreal, in Canada. Maybe you would have been able to have some success with it to kick it off. I just think that you and I are in the same boat with a lot of fans in that you're not maximizing the point of the operation. You're just like doing it because she's been probably telling the company, use me as a heel. I'm ready.
Yeah.
But, eventually, if you strike at the wrong time, everyone's just going to be like, well, yeah, I've already seen it. And we already know that. Okay, fine. Everyone, and what sucks is kind of the kayfabe is broken. We all know you're friends with Maxine. You helped train her. So now you want to beat her ass. Okay. That's where when you break kayfabe, and we all know that, oh, Maxine went to the dungeon to train. It's like it takes the sting out of, oh, the first person Natalya's going to beat up is Maxine Dupree. It would have been better if she just beat up Natalya. Like, go up there and whoop her ass, or whoop up on Rhea Ripley, or whoop up on Triple H's favorite wrestler, Io Sky. Do something cool about it, So that's where I think people feel like, well, it's just they know that it's got a little buzz. Let's just try it.
Yeah, and more to your point, right? She went over to GCW. She did great things in GCW. GCW loved what she did, and the fans loved what she did with GCW. And now they bring her back, and they bring her back as like GCW light. And it just doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Like, Natalya's never been booked well in WWE. They've never given her, you can tell that they don't have the confidence in her as being a champion. I think they gave her a championship run once. It was incredibly short, but they always book her to put other people over. She's that good little soldier that helps make other wrestlers. She goes to GCW and she gets to do whatever the hell she wants. And she's great. And the fans love it. And they think it's fantastic. And it's a different side of her. And it's wonderful. And then they try to bring her back and they try to package her with, again, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, trying to book her like old Natalya, but also like this new version of her. And it just doesn't work. If you're going to bring her back and you're going to give her a legit run and you want her to be a heel and you want her to be nasty, let her be that character she was in GCW. Let her do those things. Let her get a little bit bloody. I know you don't like to do a lot of stuff with blood because you're WWE. Let her get a little bit bloody. She's going to need a match where she bleeds and she makes somebody else bleed. That's how you sell that. That's how you get that over. And it's just again, it's WWE and some of their PG booking that just doesn't sometimes work. Something that did work this week, though, the way they brought Finn Balor back, I thought was fantastic. You had his old theme music. You had his old entrance. He put on a banger of a match against CM Punk. I thought this was absolutely incredible, the way they introduced him. It had me on my couch, had my wife on the couch next to me, and we were both taking our hands, bringing them in, and then throwing them out and raising our chests up. Every time he did it, it was great. We loved it. It gave me goosebumps. I thought his entrance was fantastic, and I thought the way he was presented was wonderful. However, where the hell was the build for this? You slapped this together a week prior because you were going to Ireland and you know that he's from Ireland. Like, give us a build for this. Like, Finn Balor is so underutilized on this roster. That guy should be a main event player every single week. And this guy has been somewhere in the mid card since he tore his labrum in his shoulder and fought to get back. He had his championship for a day, had to relinquish it. And then there's been zero confidence in this man doing anything great. And all he does is get other people over, carries the Judgment Day along with them, and does fantastic work in the ring. And this match right here was absolutely great. I thought the build for this and I thought the way that they put this together was absolute dog shit. This was something that should have been given a couple of weeks to really get things moving, get things ramped up, and get you interested. There were points in this match, and this is how you know it's a good match, where you think Finn Balor might actually win. And there was like a point where that kind of happened for me, but I was like, there's been no build. They're not going to put the belt on him. Why would they do that? It wouldn't make sense. What are your thoughts on I guess Finn Balor on Monday Night Raw as the old Finn Balor? And were you as upset about the build for his match against CM Punk as I was?
Yeah, it was a great match too, and you got to see the extra love that he got. Yeah, it was pay-per-view worthy, but in the end, in the grand scheme of things, I just think that they wanted to supercharge kind of some attention to Finn Balor. But I think bigger things are ahead for CM Punk and moving down the line. And at this point in time, this is the problem when you have so much television. You got to put matches together, and CM Punk has to go through people. So this is where you realize, okay, CM Punk in the big programs is probably going to get some of the new stars and opportunities to get out there. But yeah, it is, sometimes unfortunate when some angles that would produce some great stories aren't being told just because of the fact they're doing so much television. And that sucks because you got Saturday night's main event, and this is where you have sometimes the disconnect between how a wrestling show can be so much better, but unfortunately you're shackled by the fact you got to put out matches and you only have so many wrestlers. So that's why there's some talent acquisition. That's why there's call-ups. And look, in the end, you're right. It would have been great, but for the match itself, it definitely delivered. And what did we ask for? We asked for, okay, now that CM Punk has the belt, now win some matches, and this is and winning against Finn Balor was pretty sweet. And actually to me, just the point of the week was it was cool to see it was cool to see the match. It was cool to see Finn Balor come out to his old music. Let's go, let's turn it around, and let's see him kick off the rest of the year with a nice run.
Yeah, look, I thought the way he was presented was done well. But like I said, man, it was a great match. And I just feel like he's a guy that you need to build around. He needs to have at least one more title run.
Yes, give him a run, baby.
Before he leaves WWE.
For sure.
Whenever that might be. I need your help with something. And I said this to myself last week, and I thought about putting it on a rundown last week, but I didn't. I watched this week, I watched SmackDown, and I was left saying the same thing. Like, I want to get this wrestler. I want to love this wrestler. I think he does a great job in the ring, but I just don't get this wrestler. I just don't understand him. I don't get anything about him. And that's Ilya Dragunov. I don't see what makes him special or why he's special. Like I said, I think he's great in the ring. I think he cuts an okay promo. I think I guess he's got a look, but like when I watch him, I don't feel anything. Do you get Ilya Dragunov, or is it lost on you as well?
Yeah, no, it's fair because you see someone who's technically sound. The injury really takes you away from the character growth. At NXT, he had banger after banger after banger. He built momentum. He gets to the main roster, and that's sometimes where you kind of feel like maybe NXT, I don't know how they shed their developmental label. I just feel like maybe he just kind of deserves to stay there. Let them run and do some things. The main roster, it's just, I think what he's missing is because he's, so technical and he's foreign and he had that big chunk of time off with the injury, it doesn't feel like there's a connection as to why you would care about him. He's good, he's entertaining, but he's kind of fallen behind the Carmelo Hayes, the Trick Williams of the world, and he's got to reestablish himself. And that's where when you don't cut a promo consistently and you get people to care, it's just, okay, this guy's having matches, he's pretty good. And in NXT, you got to care because some of these feuds were told by stories and they got some payoffs and he had some great matches, and then you got to have legendary feuds. So he benefited from NXT and the stories, but now on the main roster, he's just a jag. and that's what sucks. And then when you have the big injury, it's so true, out of sight, out of mind. And when others come in and they've taken momentum, it's really tough. It's really tough because he's featured every week. But again, you get a title run, but you don't tell any stories. You just do the same old open challenge, and somebody else takes the title, and you're not establishing your, like Trick Williams. Now we're waiting for the final piece of the puzzle, which is the look and the wrestling. But he's got the entrance, he's got the look, the size, he's got the charisma. He's already had a saying where, the lemon pepper steppers, that in the middle of a Saturday podcast, you can pull that up and go, man, he's got all the tools. Dragunov being foreign, having the layoff, having the momentum killed, not having a story where you're like, wow, if he had just a Carmelo Hayes story in WWE, people would care about him more. It's just, he's just a guy on SmackDown that's in these matches, and you've already started to burn him where you're like, okay, you have some chemistry with Carmelo Hayes? Dude, we saw the match 10 times already. Now you're doing it like a couple times in SmackDown. So there is something to say that the creative has been quite lazy with Dragunov.
Yeah, to me, maybe it's exactly what you said. There's just isn't the connection because you never really got a story out of his title run. When he came up to the main roster, instantly that belt was strapped on him after he was hurt, and you didn't really do a whole lot after that. And look, I feel like it's something similar with the Wyatt Six, right? So they were your tag team champs up until Friday Night SmackDown. Now it's the MFTs that are your tag team champs, and I'm going to be honest with you. I knew they were your tag team champs, but I didn't care. And I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily care when they come out. I think it's cool that they do a tribute to Bray Wyatt essentially every time they show up, but I don't necessarily get them. And I don't think their in-ring work is all that great. And look, people might get upset at me about this, and I don't care. I don't get the Wyatt Six. I was hoping this was going to be great.
No.
And it's not all that good. I don't know. And look, no fault of Bo Dallas. I think he tries hard, but legit, you're not Bray Wyatt. And I'll even be honest with you. Bray Wyatt was good. I thought they could have did some better stuff with Bray Wyatt. I thought Bray Wyatt was incredibly creative. But I was never really... Bray Wyatt stuff never really captivated me a whole ton, right? It was never like, I was like, oh my God, this is revolutionary. I was always like, oh, this is good. I thought he had a great mind. I thought he would be a fantastic booker, and he'd be a guy who could do some really, really great things. But I don't get the Wyatt Six, man. And now the titles are off of them. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Maybe we see a few more tag team matches where they make the tag belts relevant again on SmackDown, because can we have that conversation real fast? They didn't feel relevant at all.
Yeah, no.
They didn't you hardly even knew that they were there.
Who do they appeal to? Like, I get it. In the end, you got to shed the label of being Bray Wyatt's family. It's just not good. Nobody's broken out. Nobody cares. They had I just don't understand. It feels like they've been wrestling together for 5 years, but had 4 matches. Like, it's just drawn out. It's like, they had so many breaks. But that's, I think, the biggest con to having a faction is if you have 6 people in it and one dude's hurt, it kind of kills the whole story. And then, listen, I just think that for whatever reason, Uncle Howdy is just not delivering to where you want to see it more. Like, just listen, do something, do some voodoo dance, have somebody, sit down and do a little seance or whatever and bring back Bo Dallas. I think people are going to connect with Bo. Like, that's the guy that was over. And I think that sometimes the most hurtful angle is the one that's going to hit the most. I'm Bo Dallas. I'm, a relative of Bray Wyatt, and I want to prove that my brother was right about me, that I can meet my potential. And that's it. Just be like the character like that. I just think that kids nowadays aren't going to relate to some of the freak show characters as opposed to somebody that's just the real life person telling a story that can wrestle every week and have good matches. Like, I don't care about the Wyatt Six. I never have. And it's kind of funny that Solo Sikoa taking their stuff and kind of using them as a bit is kind of funny. And I kind of like it.
It's like, legit, all of the promos basically centered around some lantern or a rocking chair or some busted ass TV set, and you're just like,
what is
cool.
this?
It's the same shit all the time. Like,
right.
You're not reinventing a wheel here, and like I don't need you to reinvent a wheel, but I need you to be interesting.
Yeah, and when you do your
Not
news,
interesting.
when you do your news and notes, I'll have a nugget
Okay.
because I did sit through Unreal, and it's something becomes quite evident when you watch it.
Okay. Look, I think the other thing coming out of SmackDown, two things. Your new number one contenders for the female tag team belts. It's Julia and Kiana James. They get a big win. I think that's cool. I think Julia really needs to be pushed. I don't know if they necessarily know what they're doing with her. I know that she's your U.S. champ, but to me, it really feels like they need to do a little bit more with Julia specifically. I know you have a thing for Kiana James. I think
Woohoo!
she works just fine. Um, the other thing, I found SmackDown to be a little bit trapped. I felt like
Yeah.
coming off of like 3 straight weeks of awesome episodes of SmackDown, I felt like this show really felt boxed in because they had Saturday night's main event that they
Right.
were planning for. So everything that you did was essentially a build to that show, and that kind of you lost a little bit of steam this week. I didn't think it was as good of a show as it has been the past weeks. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that Sami Zayn got a nice pop, but then the crowd kind of fizzled. The main event really didn't make sense. Trick Williams, Drew McIntyre has no point. Like, okay. But look, in the end, I feel like that it's going to be great to see Trick Williams in the ring with the other three guys. It'll be cool. Yeah, I just felt like the women didn't instill any impact. So the best segments were the opening segment. The best segment was Cody Rhodes and Jacob Fatu. You're like, oh wow, it was really well put together. But the problem is when you have something so well done, A+, and the rest is like C+, it lends to a difference. And look, you're not going to have every show bang. So it's unfortunate that it went down like that. But yeah, exactly. I was hoping SmackDown would be the show of the week, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was like I said. It was just I feel like there were constraints with it. And
Yeah.
you get into those shows when they have these other things going on. It'll be interesting to see how they rebound next week. Let's transition into AEW. Look, I think there was a lot of good wrestling on Dynamite this week.
Yes.
I think what they've set up though is incredibly interesting as far as their AEW World Championship. So there's a lot of contenders coming after MJF and his championship. A lot of them picked up wins this week. Samoa Joe got a win over Speedball Mike Bailey. Kenny Omega got a win over Josh Alexander. Swerve got a win over Kevin Knight. You had Brody King come out and call out MJF to open up the show. You're going to have other matches taking place on Collision this week that all relate back to MJF. And I wanted to get your take. Do you like having multiple stars chasing that championship all at one time? Or would you prefer more single angles, right? Like where you've got Swerve and MJF squaring up and they're telling this long story. And then on the outskirts, you've got Kenny Omega basically looking over Swerve's shoulder. So he's the next guy in line. Or how they've got it set up right now, where you've got like 8 guys, literally 8 guys who all want to feud with MJF.
No,
This is where I think it might work with MJF.
yeah.
Is
Yeah.
he pisses enough people off where 8 people wanting to beat his ass at one time makes total sense. But I don't know if overall storytelling wise, if that hooks your audience in and if it hooks it in long term. What are your thoughts?
No, I like it. I like the idea of, okay, if you got to go through a list of guys, that some believable characters are there. So it's really cool. I think that's one way. It's tried and true. It's the age-old method of, oh, you're the champ, so that means that, and that's old school. That's from Tony Khan's Love of Wrestling, where, hey, you got the belt. Every week is a snake pit to try and get through. And MJF is the perfect guy to kind of represent, that he's the guy that holds the title and everybody wants to knock him off for it. So that's really cool. I think that's really well done. So in the absence of like big time compelling stories, AEW starting to pick up the pace in regards to putting together some stuff that is at least very intriguing and can move things forward that you want to pay attention to.
Yeah, and look, it's going to be it's going to basically be about another month and a half
Right.
before they have another pay-per-view. So they've got a lot of time
To build some stuff.
to really build some stories in. And when their next pay-per-view comes around, I'm expecting them to have some really fleshed out stories that really get us interested. And look, I think what they're attempting to do with MJF, and like you said, the snake pit, you've got multiple guys coming at you all the time. I think for him specifically, it works and it's a great storytelling device. I think if it was anybody else, I don't know if this works as well. I don't know if it conveys the same message. You have to remember with MJF, he pisses everybody off.
Yes.
Like that's just he does such a good job with it. And he's able to go toe to toe with everybody. So he can change up his style, he can change up his format on how he's delivering a promo. And if you think about how he got that belt, he jumped into a ring that was supposed to be a triple threat match and turned it into a fatal four-way. Like he walked into the ring with multiple contenders vying for a belt, and he walked out the champion, and those guys are still chasing after that belt. So I think for what they've got going on, this works. I just think it's a dangerous game to play because I don't know if it works for anybody else. Was there anything else from AEW that really captured you this week?
No, it's all good, man. I look forward to the progression of how things go, and I'm interested in the Rascals. I think they're pretty cool. I think that some new additions will help spark the roster a little bit, and let's see what MJF can do the rest of the year.
All right, what was your show of the week this week?
I think the show of the week was Raw. I think CM Punk and Finn Balor. If you only get a chance to watch one match, that's a good match that will entertain you for the week.
I agree with you. I thought that was a banger of a match. News and notes, a little bit short this week. You ready for some news and notes?
Yes, real fast before you hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. A little bit better comeback from TNA on AMC. Mike Santana looked the part, sitting in the chair. He delivers a promo. Check it out. They did a lot more wrestling, which is, hey, what do you know? A lot better when you have the people that people care about show up on television. What do you know? Hey, they learned their lesson. Like, oh snap, we messed up week 1. Week 2 was a little bit better.
They were hammered for that first week.
It was bad. It was just bad.
Absolutely.
And sometimes maybe you start there and you go, well, if we go super high, then we got to live up to it. So I don't know, but I don't think they really appeal to too many new people. But hey, at least week 2 was better than week 1. Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What's on your list?
All right, so a little bit of a weird situation with an AEW talent that recently signed. So last week we had the news that the Rascals had signed with AEW. Not even a few days later, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful drops a bomb that one of them has been released. Amid speculation of a status, Trey Miguel took to social media to confirm that he was taking a break from wrestling. He ended up writing, taking a break from wrestling. Please respect my space and don't tag me in any post or comments. Go support the Rascals still. Now, there was a follow-up update from Fightful Select that confirmed that Miguel had in fact been released from his AE contract that he had signed only days earlier.
Ooh.
Now, there were things that were kind of swirling around, a couple of rumors, and it was a really bizarre situation. However, the truth of the matter is, and it sounds like Warner Brothers stepped in and they're the ones who made the call. They forced the release of Miguel. This is similar to the situation with the Briscoe brothers and a social media post. So apparently Miguel years ago had a back and forth with somebody regarding being gay. And look, this was a long time ago. Warner Brothers found out. They stepped in, forced AEW to void that contract due to fear of reprisal. If you remember, the Briscoe brothers had a similar situation where the Briscoe brothers were allowed to be on ROH, but they were not allowed to be on AEW television. And then once Jay Briscoe passed away, Mark was allowed to go on television. So like it was one of those things, and there was like a huge outcry from fans. And look, Miguel, to his credit, after that post, he sincerely and promptly apologized for his take and for what he had said. He was very genuine. And then he's come out and since then basically said, look, the person I was years ago and the person I was in that post is not the person I am today. I've apologized. I was
the post
sorry
still live
after the fact?
Was the post interaction was the post interaction still live on the internet, or people just brought it up?
I don't know that I'm not sure. I think it was still live because I seen screen grabs of it, so I'm assuming it was still live. So again, a very weird situation where Warner Brothers has stepped in on a wrestler and forced AEW to release them. And it sounds like AEW tried hard to keep him. AEW did not want to let him go.
Right.
But their hands were forced by the company that basically pays their bills, which here's the deal. I find this to be really, really weird, right? Like, I don't think Vince McMahon would ever have allowed this.
Right.
Like, that's the guy I'm signing. This is what I'm doing.
Right.
You're the network, whatever. Like,
And
it's weird that Warner Brothers has this much control over AEW's roster.
And also,
that is nuts to me.
And also, too, cause this is a memo, like PSA from the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. If you're a company or you're a talent and you're about to do a partnership, hey, 1 week before you sign or ink anything, you go, hey, Trey, go through your social media, erase everything. Yeah. It only costs like $300-400. Somebody will professionally go through and put in 100 keywords, and everything on X will be scrubbed. And you put it out on the table. Hey, I did this. I had this controversy. Blah blah blah. You got to put it on the table, and as a company, you got to say, hey, did you have anything said on social media? Scrub that, and we're gonna move forward. And also, too, if you would have kept him, that would have been something like, hey, we stand behind our guy. People grow, people change, and you could also use it as advocacy. You know, have Trey Miguel talk about it openly in an interview. Like, yeah, in the past, I was a kind of a rugged dude with some inappropriate, insensitive comments. Now I'm here to change my style and show that you can be somebody that grows. Because look, don't bury your head in the sand. People say weird things all the time. They grow up, and 10 years later, they're like, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have said that. So cancel culture, I think what you're saying causes cancel culture's passe. Like, people grow, people change, and it actually maybe backfired against Tony Khan and AEW. Like, you look a little soft.
To me, it just, I feel like Warner Brothers has overstepped multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's not your company, right? Like, I get that it's your television company and it's your television, and you don't want to deal with whatever, right? But at a certain point, he's a wrestler. It's wrestling. And we've talked about this. Wrestling is so niche. And wrestling fans are just different. Like, this is a guy who's come out, he's apologized. He's apologized profusely. He's not the same person he was when he said these things. People are, like you said, able to grow and realize, look, man, you're not the same person you were when you were 20. You're not the same person you were when you were 25 or even 35. I'm 42. I'm not the same person I was when I was 40. I'm not the same person I was when I was 35 or the same person I was when I was 25.
Right?
I am completely different now compared to what I was 4 years ago, 6 years ago. Like, people evolve, people grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's the thing. I know with me, I've got these like burned in memories of myself just not being a good person, right? Like, things that, like, in the back of my head I wrestle with. And I'm like, man, you were an asshole and you said some effed up stuff and you just weren't a good person. And I look at those moments and I'm like, that's not you now at all. Like, if I was ever to get into a position where, like, I was in a big spotlight, there have been things that I have done, things that I have said, things that just I've either posted on social media, whatever. Like, I'm not the same person that I was back then. Like, I'm completely different. And the things that I said then, I would never say now. And the things that I said then make my skin crawl. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, people grow and evolve. And for Warner Brothers to step in like this, I feel like you almost hamstring AEW from being able to being a functioning company. Because if you got to get final approval on anything they do, then what the hell are we doing, man? Like, why don't you just own the company? Why isn't it just your wrestling company? What's the point of Tony Khan? You know? So I don't know. To me, I would be really, if I was Tony Khan, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed with the network, and I'd be locked in a couple of meetings with the network being like, what are we doing? This is my company. This is my money that I put up. Yeah, cool. I'm glad that you gave me the television contract, but what are we doing here, guys? And you guys just now sold to Netflix. So, hey, great. You know? I would be frustrated.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. People are allowed to grow. It's like you can address it openly, and that actually sheds more light. And if you remember, too, Nick Saban had something interesting in that many people felt like a player that had violated team rules was going to be kicked off the team. He said, no, I remember when he goes, I remember back when I was at Michigan State, he said, I had a wide receiver, Mohammed, and he did some things, and I nurtured him. And look now, he's an outstanding businessman with millions of dollars of revenue because we stuck with him. We didn't boot him off the team. And now we just sometimes are quick to realize. And Dan Campbell did it with Jameson Williams. Many people were like, well, this is not the guy that's going to grow up. And now he's matured. And sometimes, look, people in their 20s say things, you're impulsive. Listen, I always say to clients, at the practice, your 20s are when you make your mistakes, your 30s are when you learn from them, and 40s are when you put all the puzzle together to be able to take the next step forward. So I don't agree at all, similar to you, in regards to how it was handled. And then just a couple nuggets from me. Unreal was great. I love the show. I know it's drawing a lot of reviews that people don't like because of the fact that it's giving away too much information. But no, it's far removed from stuff to give you some insight into the story. So I like it. Triple H is gaining a little bit of hey man, boss man, you're not supposed to be kind of hugging Io Sky like that. And everyone's like, well, listen, dude, for me, it takes it away because he married the boss's daughter. So he knows he fraternizes with the help. He was into it with China. He's one of the boys. And I think when you have a tiny little lady like that and you got a boss like Triple H, I know it's not exactly professional, but this is backstage. This is something that is interesting because he did say, hey, if I were to wipe out my roster, I would go with Io Sky. So it's like, boss man, are you a little bit, what are you into? But
he's into the Asian persuasion, bro.
Listen, I get it. There's boundaries. And by the letter of the law, it doesn't look right. But in the end, I think Triple H, if you really probably think about it at his age as an executive, I think he's a wholehearted nice guy. Everybody says that he cares about the wrestlers. You saw how he interacted with R-Truth. He was like, listen, man, it's not personal, man. It was business. And I think that he's got that measured approach to be the right CEO. So I recommend it. 5 great episodes. And I think that I know that people don't like it, but it does give you a little insight into the creative. And then my note that I shared in earlier, I just think that when you see how the creative process is, Road Dogg kind of needs to go away. I think he's more of the combative guy. Like he'll be like, I don't like this idea. And then he's the one that kind of is the shit stirrer in the group where Triple H has got to answer to him and listen to him go. He's like, I don't want to give any more ideas because you guys keep shooting it down. So he's more of that feisty guy that is tough to work with. And I just think that, it feels like he upsets the apple cart and he's like the spoiled milk in the great recipe. And you're like, oh, this is how he gets down in meetings. And I think there's too many people in the creative process. Dude, there's like 10 people giving ideas. I love Paul Heyman, what he thinks. I want him in the room. I think that you got to involve like Adam Pearce, Nick Aldis, maybe a wrestler. I think that, a lot of these non-wrestlers are just throwing out a lot of these story arcs and creative ideas. And I can see why it doesn't resonate. These are people that are writers, like creative writers and visionary storytellers. So if you want to peek at the creative process, it's really how a television show would operate. But I think we need a little bit more infusion of wrestlers. Like Michael P.S. Hayes always comes off great. I want to see a show added on. I got to start making noise. I want to see a producer show. Bobby Roode, amazing. Abyss, amazing. TJ, amazing. Hurricane Helms, amazing. I just feel like, man, when the matches get put together and they go wrong, it's amazing to see. So I think the producers need some more love, but I think the creative process is way too expansive. It's cool to see the meetings when they talk about, well, what do we think about this? And the most disturbing part was, and I hated it, was they go, okay, if we give the belt to Chelsea Green, who Triple H asks Road Dogg, who's she going to work with? And he's like, nobody. He's like, okay, we can make a move and put the belt back on her, but who's like, we got to think long term. And Road Dogg looked like a slappy. He's like, I don't know. So Road Dogg gives the ideas. And Triple H is the wise man and goes, okay, let's look 5 steps down the road. Okay, we make this move. What does that mean? Who is she going to wrestle with? And Road Dogg's sitting there going, twiddling his thumbs. Like, come on, Road Dogg, step up your game. You're on television now. You're in a position of the lead SmackDown writer. I think it's been revamped now, but I can see why people were unhappy. You can see why the shows aren't good.
It has been revamped, but this was a problem with him before. That was why he was let go.
Yeah, he's not good in his role. I think that it's time. Do your thing, man, and stay in the background. And I can see why, because creatively, you got to switch it up. But there's a growing star there. I'll get his name next week. But he gave some good ideas. You could see how Paul Heyman feels about Penta. So it was a really good show. I highly recommend everybody check it out. Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRSJRLZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for your continued support. 2026 is off to a strong start. Thank you for supporting Doc and Jock, the Michigan podcast, and the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast. Always enjoy firing it up. The Royal Rumble's around the corner. And on a funny note, our group chat is very funny. Powerhouse Hobbs is not going to be Hobbs Powerhouse. No, Royce Keys. I think just saying that into the microphone is very funny. And your new world champion, Royce Keys. It's not, no.
Quentin Jackson. I thought that was a better name.
Yeah.
Or Quintez Johnson. Like,
Quentin Hobbs. Like no Powerhouse, no Hobbs, no Will Quinton. But Royce is his son's name, so you get that. Okay, so you know Powerhouse Quentin. Something different. I don't know. It was like I look like sometimes the names when you see how they match it up, because that's how they did it with Seth Rollins. Like they started Unreal with Seth. Seth was given the name by Dusty Rhodes. He's like, okay, Seth. Good. Okay. And then he's like, okay, what about this, and this? And then he goes, Seth Rollins, baby. That sounds good. It sounds good. Seth Rollins sounds good.
Your dream impersonation's great.
Yeah. Seth Rollins, baby. Seth Rollins, baby. Gonna go to the world. Like, I can't imagine him going, Royce Keys gonna go to the top, baby. Royce Keys. No. Like where are the people that say this doesn't sound right? This doesn't, like, he should say, this isn't cool. This is not cool. But in the end, I do see potentially this one might be where he changes his name pretty quickly and might end up just being Royce, or might being Keys or Powerhouse Keys or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, names, you got to have impact. But I'm curious to see how and where he comes. If he comes to the main roster, you can create some new stars. So it's going to be fun to monitor, and make sure you stick and stay with the Detroit Sports Podcast, because I can't wait for next week when we fire it up to preview the Royal Rumble on the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.